She's never given an interview. She's never cut a ribbon. Most of the world couldn't pick her voice out of a crowd. And yet, right now, a 5-year-old girl living quietly between Montecito and, very soon, the English countryside, is closer to the British throne than the vast majority of people who have ever lived. Her name is Lilibet. Her great-grandmother was a queen. Her uncle will one day be king, and in just the last few days, her entire life has quietly, dramatically changed because her family is moving home. So what actually happens to a kid like this? Not the tabloid fantasy version. The real one, the legal one, the financial one, the deeply human one. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand something most royal commentary gets wrong. Lilibet's future was never going to be decided by a fairy tale. It's going to be decided by paperwork, precedent, and a handful of very deliberate choices her family is making right now. Let's start with the basics, because even people who follow royal news get some of this wrong. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor was born on June 4, 2021 in Santa Barbara, California, the second child and only daughter of Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Her middle name honours Harry's late mother, Princess Diana. Her first name is a nod to her great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, whose own family nickname since childhood was Lilibet. Because she was born after her parents stepped back from royal duties and relocated to the United States, she arrived into the world without a title. For the first 2 years of her life, official channels referred to her simply as Miss Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor. That changed the moment her grandfather became king. Under a set of rules dating back to 1917, issued by King George V, any child of a monarch's son automatically qualifies to be styled as a prince or princess. When Charles ascended the throne in September 2022, Lilibet and her older brother Archie both technically qualified overnight. It simply took several more months and a formal christening before the family and the palace confirmed it publicly in March 2023. Today, she's Princess Lilibet of Sussex, and right now she sits 7th in line to the British throne, behind her uncle William, his 3 children, and her own father and brother. That number will almost certainly keep drifting downward as William's children grow up and potentially have children of their own. But barring something extraordinary, Lilibet is going to spend her entire life as a working member of the royal bloodline who will, in all likelihood, never actually sit on the throne. And that detail, being royal by blood but distant by number, is the single fact that explains almost everything else in this video. Here's where this story gets genuinely current, as in, this week current. For 6 years, the story of the Sussex family was one of distance. In 2020, Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties and moved across the Atlantic to Montecito, California. Archie and Lilibet grew up almost entirely in the United States. Lilibet, in fact, had barely set foot in the UK at all. Her only real visit came in 2022 for Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, when she was still a baby. Then, in the space of about 48 hours in mid-August 2026, that entire narrative flipped. Multiple outlets, CNN, NBC News and others, confirmed that Harry and Meghan are relocating to a private, non-royal residence in the UK, with Archie and Lilibet enrolled to start at British schools this September. King Charles was reportedly informed just days before the news broke. Notably, this wasn't discussed during the family's earlier visit to Highgrove in July, which suggests the decision came together quickly. A few things are worth being precise about here, because a lot of outlets are blurring them. First, this is not a return to royal duties. Palace sources and reporting are consistent on this point. Harry and Meghan remain private individuals. There's no indication they'll resume official engagements or move into a royal residence. Second, they're not giving up their American base. The family is reportedly keeping the Montecito home as well as a property in Portugal, meaning Lilibet's day-to-day life may end up split across 2 continents rather than fully relocated. Third, the why seems to be layered. Reports point to a mix of factors: a slowly thawing relationship between Harry and his father, ongoing legal battles over UK security arrangements, and, quite simply, Harry wanting his children to grow up knowing his home country and its schools the way he once described wanting for years. For Lilibet specifically, this is enormous. A 5-year-old who has spent her entire life in California is, within weeks, about to start school in England, in a system, a climate, and a culture she's had almost no exposure to. That's not a footnote. That's the biggest single event of her childhood so far. Let's talk about the title, because this is where a lot of speculation runs way ahead of the facts. Right now, Lilibet's status as princess is not in question. It was granted automatically under the 1917 rules the moment Charles became king, and it was publicly confirmed in 2023. Nobody has taken it away, and there's no legal mechanism currently in motion to do so. But here's the honest, forward-looking part. Titles in the British monarchy aren't fixed in stone. They're governed by documents called letters patent, which a reigning monarch can, in theory, amend. Some royal commentators have speculated that a future King William, known for favouring a smaller, more streamlined monarchy, could eventually revisit how titles are handled for more distant relatives, Lilibet and Archie included. I want to be really clear about something. That is speculation, not policy. No such change has been announced, drafted, or even formally proposed. It's a reasonable question to ask given William's public comments about a slimmed-down monarchy, but treating it as a done deal would be getting ahead of the actual facts. If anything changes, it's more likely to happen gradually. And it's likely decades away, given William isn't king yet and Lilibet is 5 years old. What is fixed, by contrast, is her place in the succession. Barring a change in the law itself, which would require an act of the UK Parliament and the other Commonwealth realms, Lilibet will keep her constitutional spot in that line for life. She may drift further down the list as cousins are born, but she doesn't get removed just because her parents stepped back from official duties. Succession and day-to-day royal work are two completely separate systems, something a lot of coverage still gets wrong. So if Lilibet isn't going to be a working royal and her title is stable for now, what does her actual future look like? The most useful comparison isn't her Uncle William or Cousin George, it's her father's own cousins, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Both are granddaughters of a monarch, both hold royal titles, and neither receives public funding or performs official royal duties. Instead, both built entirely private careers, Beatrice in the tech and publishing world, Eugenie in the art world, while still attending select family events and keeping their place in the family privately. Royal commentators increasingly describe this as a kind of third way, not a full working royal and not a complete outsider either, but something in between. Under King Charles's long-stated preference for a smaller, more focused monarchy, it's genuinely unlikely that Lilibet will ever draw public funds or take on formal duties. That means, like Beatrice and Eugenie before her, she'll likely be expected to build her own career and support herself financially as an adult. There's also a smaller, more theoretical scenario worth mentioning honestly, as a blood relative in the line of succession. She remains part of the institution's extended safety net. If the working royal family were ever unusually short-staffed, through illness, scandal, or simply a thin generation, distant relatives have occasionally been asked to step in for specific engagements. It's happened before with other minor royals, it's not a plan, and it's not likely to define her 20s. It's just a door that technically stays open because of who her grandfather is. Put simply, expect Lilibet's adult life to look far more like a well-connected private citizen with an unusual last name than anything resembling Kate Middleton's public role. None of this means Lilibet gets to grow up completely out of the public eye. And that tension is honestly the most human part of this whole story. Royal protocol, technically, still applies to her. Once a child turns 5, tradition holds that they're expected to bow or curtsy when formally greeting the reigning monarch, a small but real marker that, informal upbringing aside, she is still part of that world whenever the family gathers. Then there's the much bigger, much messier issue, privacy. Meghan has spoken publicly before about her worry that raising her children in the UK would mean never being able to do a simple school drop-off without a crowd of photographers waiting outside the gates. That concern hasn't disappeared just because the family is moving. If anything, this move is going to test it directly. Reports suggest the family is deliberately keeping the name and location of Archie and Lilibet's new school private, precisely because of that risk. So picture her actual day-to-day reality this autumn, a 5-year-old starting a brand new school in a country she barely knows, adjusting to a British classroom instead of an American one. All while being one of the most photographed surnames on the planet, and all while her parents try, quite deliberately, to keep her out of the spotlight they themselves live in. That's the paradox at the centre of Lilibet's whole childhood. She has enormous access to wealth, to global fame, to a genuine royal family, and almost none of the traditional royal machinery of protection, staff, and structure that comes with growing up at, say, Kensington Palace. She's navigating fame without a formal role and privacy without full anonymity. So let's pull all of this together. Lilibet is going to grow up with a British education for the first time, alongside her American roots. A genuinely bicontinental childhood most kids, royal or not, will never experience. She'll keep her title and her place in the succession for the foreseeable future, even as speculation continues about what a future King William might eventually choose to do. She almost certainly won't become a full-time working royal, instead likely following the private career path her cousins Beatrice and Eugenie have already walked. And she'll keep living inside that unusual space where enormous privilege and real day-to-day privacy concerns sit right next to each other. If there's one thing this story proves, it's that the monarchy her generation is inheriting doesn't look anything like the one her great-grandmother ran. It's smaller, more private, more careful about public money. And kids like Lilibet and Archie are essentially the test case for what a 21st century minor royal childhood actually looks like in practice. We'll be watching, carefully and honestly, as more details about this move and about her life become public. Not if you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. We cover royal family news the way it deserves to be covered, fact-checked, sourced, and without the guesswork dressed up as certainty. Drop a comment below. Do you think Lilibet and Archie will end up closer to Beatrice and Eugenie's path, or something entirely new? And if you want the full story on the Sussex family's return to the UK, I've got a video linked right here that covers exactly what's happening and why. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.